It's Reality Check with Craig Price.
I'm an idiot.
4 minutes in and I'm already wrong.
I'm like a monkey. Hello, look at me. Craig, shut up. Hey, I need you guys to do these things.
You're like a beautiful mind. I'm more like Forrest Gump. So
It's Reality Check with Craig Price. This week, old pal and movie reviewer, because critic is such a harsh term, Alan Cerny is here to help preview this summer's movie. Welcome to the show. I'm always excited to do these supersized episodes with Alan, but before we get to the movies, I want to remind you that we're getting close to our 100th episode, and I want you to help celebrate it. It's real simple. You can just call 281-668-8948. That's 281-668-8948 and leave a message. It can be something as simple as your name, who you are, where you are, and a congrats. Or you can tell people what you like about the show. Whatever you want. The best ones will be part of the 100th episode. I hope you take some time out and leave a quick message. Also, if you want, you can leave a review on iTunes, or real simple, just go to iTunes and click 5 stars. No typing or thinking necessary. I would certainly appreciate it. But I want to keep this brief because we have lots to discuss and lots of movies to get excited about with today's guest, Alan Cerny. Well, this is I've told you, this is one of my favorite podcasts that we do of the year. Thankfully, we do it 3 times a year. And as we chug towards 100 episodes, you're in like 10% of them, so that's good.
Oh, that's great.
I don't think you realize that. This is our 7th or 8th
Seventh
time.
or eighth, man. Yeah, it's been a lot.
And this is fun because summertime is looking good.
Yeah, it's a good summer. It looks really good. There's a couple of ones that I'm not quite sure about for the most part, but I mean, my geek itch is going to be scratched this summer, it looks like.
And, of course, Alan Cerny's here with me from Ain't It Cool News. We've got Summer Starts this week. Actually, I think tomorrow. This Is the End, which is a comedy starring Seth Rogen and all his buddies. James Franco, who's in everything. Or if he's not in everything, he's doing everything.
All right. If it's not James Franco, it's The Rock. And when they make a movie together, the world ends.
Yeah, that's going to explode. You know what they'll do? They'll play a movie where they each play 9 different parts.
Right.
Danny McBride's in it. All the characters you see in every Seth Rogen movie is in it.
Yeah. And they're all playing themselves.
Yeah, it's one of those where they're playing Hollywood types, and I think they use that to their advantage because Emma Watts is in it.
Yeah.
From the preview.
There's supposedly a really big cameo. I don't know what the cameo, so it hasn't been spoiled for me. It has screened a few times. I have not seen this film yet, and I'm really curious about it. It looks like it's a lot of fun. You know, Rogen directed it too.
And he wrote it with his friend Evan.
Yeah,
who plays he was the skinny crying dude in the Robert Downey Tropical Thunder.
Yeah, that's right.
So it'll be interesting to see. This is about the world ending and how these stars handle it.
Right. And it looks like it's a lot of fun. I mean, the trailer looks really fun. I'm looking forward to seeing it. I'm very curious. I am still a lot of people have kind of fallen off the Seth Rogen, Evan Goldberg bandwagon. I'm still a fan of their work. I love they have a really great sense of humor. It's self-deprecating. It's topical. It's funny, you know, and they have a really great camaraderie. And it looks like it's a lot of fun. Evan Goldberg is actually one of my favorite screenwriters right now. He's just really funny and writes really great scripts.
And I think if you know who these people are, I mean, if you go in knowing all the actors, and you know their personas or what their image is, I think this will be real fun for a lot of people.
Yeah, I think so. Craig Robinson is just, I think he's actually got another movie coming out called Rapture Palooza. I'm not sure when that comes out.
He just was in The Peoples.
Yeah, and he just finished up The Office, and I think he's really funny. I really like watching him, so I'm excited to see him in that too.
Well, this one seems like it's going to be pretty, I don't want to say generic, but it's pretty straight ahead, not only satire but comedy about the end of the world. So
yeah,
we'll move on
it's actually the first of a couple of them coming out.
That's actually we're gonna be bookending this with that. We'll just move on to the first huge movie of the year, because I think in May we had Iron Man 3, which we knew was coming. It's a sequel. We've got Star Trek 2, Into the Darkness. That was a sequel. This is the first. This is Man of Steel. This is the big Superman movie
Mm-hmm.
that Christopher Nolan's got his hands on, though he didn't direct, and Zack Snyder directed. It looks amazing.
I can't wait to see it.
I've seen the previews in 3D at the IMAX, and I've seen the previews they just put out with all the action.
Yeah.
I think the balance is there, and I think Christopher Nolan has earned a lot of trust with fans.
I think so. Everything I've seen about this movie was unexpected and really welcome. I am really happy that they are doing something different. They're not following the Richard Donner template from Superman the movie, which is a great film. It's one of my favorites. But it's time to do something different. I'm glad that they got Hans Zimmer to do the score, because the score, from what I've heard so far, is just great.
And you've heard a lot of it.
Yeah.
He's in a tough spot.
Yeah.
Because that score
Yeah.
is iconic. Not only is it just iconic because everyone knows it,
Yeah.
but it's really good. It's fantastic music. I mean,
It's
I
like-
love the Superman
It's
theme.
like, if you were in stand-up, it would be like following Richard Pryor,
Right.
You're dealing with John Williams, and it's one of the most iconic themes in film history. But for the theme that they've got working works. I mean, it fits the mood, fits the tone. I'm, of all comic book superheroes, Superman's my boy. That's my favorite. And it's like saying vanilla is your favorite flavor of ice cream. It's like saying McDonald's makes your favorite hamburger. I understand that, because but there is something so hopeful and iconic about the character that I really, really respond to. And it looks like they've nailed it. There's so much wonder and beauty. There's a shot in this making of clip that I just saw of It looks like it might be Superman flying for the first time, and he's just plowing through the sky. He's got the trails behind him, and the face on he's got the smile from ear to ear. It's like, I am flying, dude. And it's like, yeah, that's that. They got what I wanted to see.
And I think the cast is they got Russell Crowe to play Superman's father, which, being a geek, you probably know what's it, Kor-El or
Jor-El.
Jor-El. Because and then we got
Spider-Man. Superman's name is actually Kal-El. That's
Kal-El.
his name.
See, that's what I was.
Yeah.
Then you've got Lawrence Fishburne. He's playing Perry White.
Perry White.
the editor of the Daily Planet.
Yep. You were going to say Daily Taco or something.
No, Daily Times. I was going to say Daily Times, and then my wife yesterday was talking about it, and she was like, "Is it the Daily Bugle or the Daily Planet?" And no, that's the Daily something. But you got Lawrence Fishburne in it. You've got Michael Shannon, who's awesome as every villain. He's always plays a villain.
He's Zod. I'm fascinated to see how they do that, considering I'm a big Superman 2 fan as well. So.
And then, was it Henry Cavill?
Henry Cavill.
I put an R in there. Does he play Green Arrow on television?
No.
Or is he in Green Arrow on television?
I believe he's on the show The Tudors. And then he was in that film Immortals by Tarsem.
Okay.
And then this is kind of one of his first big roles. This
is a big role.
Yeah, very, very big role.
This
and
is, no doubt about it.
Considering where he's coming from, he's very much in Christopher Reeve's position, because Christopher Reeve was kind of a nobody when he took that part.
Oh, absolutely.
Cavill is not exactly a nobody, but
he
he's
isn't a
stepping in
yet.
some pretty big shoes. And it looks like he fills them. He fills them great.
Yeah, Kevin Costner playing Clark's dad. Pa Kent.
That's about the perfect casting you can imagine, I think.
Yeah, and Amy Adams is in everything. She's playing Lois Lane.
Yeah,
we'll see how that works, because
she's a little older.
Well, she's also she may be a little overexposed at this point. Amy Adams is starting to be. You start to see in everything. She's turning into the Katherine Heigl of quality movies. Katherine Heigl's in every bad rom-com.
Right.
Amy Adams is in every movie of any quality.
Right.
It's like, we need Amy Adams. It's like,
yeah. And I like the little dynamic that they have going on in the trailers that I've seen. There's a, I watched the trailer so many times in a row. And that part with Kevin Costner when his voice cracks and he says, "You are my son." It's like, oh, you cry. You can't help but cry at that. It's like, man, it looks like they nailed everything that I love about Superman, and they finally brought it to screen. And I think that really, since Superman the movie is the first Superman movie we're getting that really feels like it's touching on the iconic power of the character.
Well, I think it's going to be a huge hit, especially over. Maybe I'm thinking maybe not so much overseas, but I think it is going to be overseas, because I think unlike G.I. Joe, where it doesn't actually do very well overseas because it's all American.
Yeah.
I think Man of Steel, even though it's an iconic American, all the American attributes that we aspire to be,
Yeah.
I think it'll do gangbusters.
Yeah, everybody knows Superman. There are people in small communities in Africa wearing Superman T-shirts. So
Well, there's also small communities in Africa wearing 2007
that's true.
Red Sox World Championship
That's true.
T-shirts as well. So that's June 14th. Now, have you heard anything about the Justice League being a part of it?
I don't know. They're still fiddling around with that. The Avengers is such a huge thing to follow, and
Why is DC screwing it up so bad?
because there's a variety of reasons, really, but I think it's because they don't want to follow Marvel's template and be accused of being, ripping them off. But really, the only way they can get these characters in front of the limelight and bring them together is unlike Marvel, where people now know who Spider-Man is, they now know who Iron Man is, they now know Thor, Captain America, all of them. The only two DC characters that people have any really inkling about is Superman and Batman, and maybe Green Arrow because of the series.
They know Wonder Woman.
They know them, but
know.
it's not. It's it's a generation since that show was on television. It's a different. It's. I think they're approaching it too carefully. I think that they can just pretty much ram it down people's throats at this point. If they get the cast they want, they spend the money that they need to spend. I think that they'll make a interesting movie. Marvel and DC are. I mean, I'm a comic book geek. I know what Marvel does. Marvel tries to bring things to a sense of reality. DC is fantastical, out of this world stuff. Even when Marvel goes off into space, they try to kind of keep it centered. They explain everything. DC has no problem going off into alternate dimensions and planets and all sorts of stuff. And so there's a tonal difference between the two, and it's really harder to sell what DC does in a movie.
Yeah. Well, I think they should. It's Hollywood. Everybody does the same models if it works. It's if Marvel is doing a good job, which they have done a fantastic job, I think they pulled off almost a miracle.
Yeah.
I don't see why DC wouldn't follow that if they know it's going to work.
Warner Brothers has a lot riding on Man of Steel. If Man of Steel doesn't really overperform, they could be in trouble, which is unfortunate because I think it's a really interesting studio with interesting movies.
Yeah, they don't have anything but Batman.
Yeah, I mean they have a lot riding on it. So. I hope it's good. I really think it will be, and I think it's going to do very well if it's good.
Okay. Well, we'll move on to it's on June 21st because Man of Steel. It comes out this Friday. I will be seeing it first day. These are kind of movies that most of these movies are movies I like to see first day only because I like to see it with people.
Yeah,
it's the seeing it. There's two ways I like to see a movie: jam packed, or by myself in a full theater like I'm Harvey Weinstein watching stuff. I mean,
exactly.
I always feel good about watching those. I saw Jurassic Park in 3D that way.
Yeah.
At Studio Movie Grill, which is a place where you can eat. So not only was it an empty theater in the middle of a Monday, 2 weeks after it came out, but there was nobody there but me. But people were bringing me food.
Bring me food. You're like an emperor. Or
I'm like Harvey Weinstein,
yeah,
a big
exactly.
fat guy who's in charge. I love it, and with power, it's like this. I could, and that 3D was amazing.
Yes, I love Jurassic Park 3D. Actually,
as I was watching it, I kept on going. You would not know this was not made for 3D.
Yeah, they did a great conversion job on that.
Well, it's not only just a great conversion job, but the way Spielberg shot it.
It feels like it was made for the medium. Exactly.
It was amazing. So if that is proof that if you shoot the movie correctly the first time, you can do a good 3D conversion. But most 3D conversions I've seen scare me. Yeah, they're awful.
They're not the best. I mean, we'll see. I think it's getting to the point now where conversion can actually
detract.
Detract from what you're seeing exactly. But sometimes, like in the case of Jurassic Park 3D, if the conversion studios put in real work. They don't rush it. They work with the director and try to get his vision down. Sometimes it works perfectly. I think Jurassic Park 3D is the best 3D I've seen yet.
Since
really.
Avatar.
Conversion.
Conversion, yes.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
I will agree with that. Friday, June 21st, we got two movies. They're both counter-programming each other. The first one is World War Z, which is a book that I've read.
One of my favorite zombie books. It's a great book.
But to me, almost impossible to film because of the way the book is made.
You can't make that book as a movie. It's probably best as like an episodic television series.
It would have been great if HBO had taken care of it.
Yeah,
because it's a series of interviews.
It's almost it almost plays out like that with each chapter being its own episode, or they could have figured out a way to crosshatch maybe, but it's not a movie where it's an A to B to C sort of thing. It's like real life, you know.
It's like a documentary that they pulled
exactly.
apart, and they're just showing you the separate interviews that culminate with the end. This is Brad Pitt with almost nobody I can recognize after that.
Yeah, I think they spent the money on the effects if they could.
And it's and it looks like it to me. It looks like these zombies, because there's always two types of zombies: the slow-moving, Walking Dead, brain eaters, or the was it 28 Days Later?
Yeah, the runners. So,
the runners,
the walkers and the runners.
And
these are
like,
runners.
These look like not only runners, but they look like
sprinters, really.
Well, they also look like they're deranged. Willing to sacrifice their lives, because I'm seeing them jumping off 14-story buildings after helicopters and not making it.
Yeah.
So they're not really thinking. They're just mindless.
Yeah.
I'm going to kill them no matter what. Which I thought zombies, they were hungry. So at least they would a door stopped them sometimes.
I'm not a fan of anything I've seen of this, really.
They had some reshoots.
Yeah, a ton of reshoots. They ended up spending quite a bit of money.
Not always bad to do reshoots, though.
It's not. No, reshoots are not. Reshoots not an indication of whether or not a movie is good or bad. In fact, some movies are made. Good movies are made even better by reshoots. Jaws had reshoots.
Every day they had reshoots.
Yeah, pretty much. But reshoots are not indicative of how a movie is. It's depends on. But this wasn't reshot because of of goodness. I'll put it that way. I've heard it spent a huge amount of money on this movie. And I'm troubled by the marketing campaign that won't even say the word zombie, and it's obvious they're zombies. They're trying to play to a broader crowd. And the thing is, if you make a good product, if you make something, you have faith in the product that you've done, you've put your heart and soul into it, who cares? You're selling something. I understand that you've got to make a lot of money, but quality wins out every time, and if it's a good movie, people will go. But because of the impetus of opening weekend, movies don't get a chance to breathe. It's either opening weekend or nothing.
Well, I don't understand that, because they can nowadays you can really make a lot of money on DVDs or Netflix, or there's been television shows that have been saved because their shows were, I saw The Office retrospective, and they were talking about how the first season didn't do very well as far as ratings.
Exactly.
But it was the highest rated, it was the highest downloaded and paid for TV show on iTunes.
Right. And then, they realized that they actually did have something, and they were able to grow organically. TV shows get this better than movies at this point because, with half and half exceptions. Sometimes TV shows get cut off at the first season; they don't get that chance to grow. And sometimes, like what happened with The Office, there's some sort of organic growth to it. But a movie's got to make that money right away.
I guess
there's no way mathematically. Well, there's a possibility. Okay, I don't think there's a really easy mathematical way for World War Z to make its money back. From what I understand, right now it's upwards at $275 million.
Wow, it's got. I guess it's got to be a good movie that people want to buy.
Yeah, and I might be exaggerating the number a bit. That's what I read last, and it might. Hollywood numbers are so fudgy anyway.
Well, they also make it so no matter how much money they make, they don't make any money.
Yeah, they
they cook the book somehow.
There's the mob has better records than the Hollywood does. But who knows how that movie's going to do? But if it ain't good, people aren't going to go.
Do you think they're worried that if they say the word zombie, that people are going to think it's a horror movie? And how limited
it's a PG-13 zombie movie.
Is it PG-13?
Yes, it's PG-13. There's no way they've already put both their hands behind their back before it even started. There's no. I hate to. I don't prejudge movies. I don't. I try my best not to. But when a movie like this has as much trouble as it's had just before it even gets out, before it even opens, right out the gate, and it's on a loved property. A ton of people have read that book. A lot of people have,
and it's
already obvious from the trailer that they have not gotten the book down. That they did not make the book.
They couldn't.
They're just. They couldn't. You're right. They couldn't. There probably could have been a way, but they would have had to set it up right up front. It's like this is the first of 5 movies, or something like that. They might have been able to pull, or 3. I know people don't like to deal in 5s, so trilogies are okay. If they just set that out right up front, maybe people would have gotten into it and followed along. But it doesn't. They did not make the book. It's obvious from anybody who's read the book watching that trailer they didn't make the book.
No, I read the book and absolutely not. You're right. You're 100% right. So we'll move on because I know this. I hate to dwell on this because also just don't forget Titanic had the same same stuff going on. Yeah. Everybody thought the same about that. Not that this is Titanic, But everybody thought Titanic was going to be this big, horrible crater, and it ended up being the most popular movie of all
Mark
time.
Forrester is no James Cameron.
No, I understand that too. Well, we'll move on to something that I think will probably do very well and will probably be very good. Monsters University.
I at the time of this podcast, I will have seen the film. I have not seen it yet.
But you are also going to go to San Francisco.
Yeah, I'm going to probably see it in the best possible audience. So there's no way
At Pixar.
At Pixar in the Presto Theater, which is one of the most gorgeous movie theaters I've ever been in. Where when the lights go down, it darkens, the ceiling lights up with stars, and you see crickets, and you see like little shooting stars in the sky, and then the sound is perfect, and it's so bright, and the 3D glasses are unlike any 3D glasses I've ever seen before. So yeah, I'm gonna be a little
gung-ho about it.
Yeah,
but it's Sully and Mikey.
Well, they're doing Animal House. It looks like, and they're basically making a kid's Animal House, which is great. I've heard a lot of great things about it. I've heard that people had issues with Brave. I liked Brave, but this one, from what I understand, Pixar is right back on track. And even though it is a prequel, it's not an original product. It just looks like it's a ton of fun. I dig. I mean, you know how Pixar does. They study everything that like when they made Brave, they went out and shot arrows, and they made other movies. They really go into the research. I'm curious of how much research they went into Pixar when they probably had toga parties going on. Massive keggers. They won't have that in Monsters University, but you know what I mean.
I bet I wouldn't be surprised if they had a version of that was kid friendly.
Yeah. They probably had keggers full of like Coke,
Kool-Aid. Well, not Coke, because that's the 80s going on there.
Yeah,
but I think that one's a slam dunk.
Yeah,
I think those characters are liked and well loved. I mean, Sully and Mikey are funny, and they've always been good, and they've had little shorts that have been made from them. So that I think they know, and Pixar has a long history of knowing what they're doing, especially with sequels. Take away Cars.
Yeah. Well, Cars 2 isn't bad. It's not terrible. For another studio, it would be a decent movie.
Well, yeah. But and then they've got a new one called Planes.
Yeah, we'll see about that.
Yeah, that one looks awful, anyways. But we'll leave on a good point. But I think Monsters University is a slam dunk.
I'm excited to see it.
I am concerned about, as we move into the June 28th, these two movies, because they seem like rehashes of other movies one has already come out this year, and one is just a rehash with gender swapping. We've got White House Down, which I believe was Olympus Falls.
Oh, Olympus Has Fallen was so bad.
But I thought other people were saying that it was a Die Hard movie that should have been made by Die Hard, but it wasn't.
Yeah and no. I could see that the template would have made a decent Die Hard film. But that being said, it's just not really well. I mean, Olympus Has Fallen it was just not a good movie. There's no way around it. And I mean, this one's got several strikes against it already. But again, I don't prejudge films. But it looks fun to me.
It's got Channing Tatum in it. How can that be bad? He's in everything.
I like him too, though.
They redid G.I. Joe just for him.
Yeah, well, he probably should have stayed in that movie longer. But I like him. I like Jamie Foxx. It looks like it's a lot of fun, but it's directed by Roland Emmerich, who has brought us Independence Day, The Day After Tomorrow.
Well, some of the independent, like the Emmerich, Devlin's not in it.
I don't know if he is it or not. I don't remember. But
they're hit and miss. They're either slam dunks or they are massive craters.
Well, we'll see on this one. But nobody blows up stuff quite like Roland Emmerich, and he certainly has a thing for destroying Washington. So, and it looks like Washington blows up real good in this one too. So I don't know. It looks like it's a lot of fun. It's definitely material you visited before. Not even 3 or 4 months ago,
Yeah,
it's like it's.
But they always do this. They always come out too.
Exactly,
Armageddon and Deep Impact came out at the same time.
And though it's normally the one that comes out after that's the better movie. Really depending, but it's like in the '80s when they had the father-son swapping thing.
Yeah,
they used to do that all the time, and we'll see about this one, but. I think the trailer is fun. I like Channing Tatum. I think he has a charisma to him in his performances. So, and I like Jamie Foxx. We'll see.
We'll see. And then the same weekend, The Heat comes out, and that is the Sandra Bullock, Melissa McCarthy, buddy cop movie.
Yeah, directed by Paul Feig.
Paul Feig, who I like.
Yeah,
he did Bridesmaids, but he does a lot of television. I know Paul Feig because he's my comedy background. I know about him and what he's done.
Freaks and Geeks is stuff that he did with that. It's great. And I've heard amazingly good stuff about this movie.
I have too.
I've heard it's really, really funny. There's a really great camaraderie. This is going to be Sandra Bullock's year, by the way. I don't know if you know that yet, but just wait till October. Yeah. But they have a really great connection together. I've seen some clips of the film that were really, really funny. Melissa McCarthy is really funny when they let her off the chain. You know, Identity Thief was kind of. It wasn't her fault that it wasn't funny. You know, I think it was a bad script.
It was okay. That was okay. That was a matinee, or if you got free passes.
Yeah,
that's definitely a movie on HBO. That the Identity Thief. If you watch it on HBO, you wouldn't go, "Oh my god, I can't believe I wasted my time on that."
But there's always that rated R comedy that does really well in the summer, and this one is slotted to be that movie. Although we have Hangover 3 that's already out, but that's a return to form. Everybody's seen those characters. This is something new. With new characters, new situations, and I think it's probably going to do really well.
I certainly hope so, because the bad rap, they finally released the women can't be in comedies with Bridesmaids.
Yeah.
But then of course they went right back to, well, if Bridesmaids is great, let's get the what was the one with all the women went to Vegas?
Yeah.
And it was basically, let's take the Bridesmaids and take all the redeeming qualities out.
Right.
And let them all be drunken, coke snorting, horrible people.
Exactly. Well, and it's Paul Feig is a really great director of everybody, really, not just women but men too. But and I think it's an interesting choice for him to go from Bridesmaids to this. But he's just such a funny guy, and his humor comes organically. It's not something that's just something that's spur of the moment. They let actors play, and they let they have a script that they go by, but. He picks really good cast members.
He also one of the things that he does, because I was just listening to an interview with him with Kevin Pollak. He tests his movies to death.
Yes, now you kind of have to with comedies.
Well, so a lot of people don't. Mm-hmm. They just say, "I'm the director. This is how I want it," and so he will, because comedy is tough. Mm-hmm. As a former stand-up, and more emphasis on the former, it's difficult to be funny.
Well, when you're a director and you've got your movie and you've seen the jokes thousands of times, you stop having any kind of objectivity about your work. You don't know what's funny anymore. You don't even know. The only way you can know is to test.
And so, So what he does is, from what I understand, it's like as soon as he has something, it doesn't even have to be a finished product. As soon as he has something that kind of resembles a story, he'll test it, and every 2 weeks after that, he'll test it and test it and test it until, because they've got like 10 weeks to bring in a movie, and so he tries to get what is funny as much as possible. Where other directors will assume it's funny, they're all laughing in the script read, or they're all laughing in the offices. That doesn't matter. It's really tough. You got to get it in front of people to really find out if it's funny. Even stand-ups.
Exactly.
Because they can do it over and over again, and they think this is great, and then they go out there and
they have no idea until an audience sees it. And that's especially comedies are tough now. I mean, I really admire him for making this movie, and I think he's going to do well.
That brings us to the July 4th week, where they got two big movies coming out. Plus, there's also, and we're not going to really talk about it as much, but it's very unique. They've got Kevin Hart's got his concert comedy movie out that weekend.
I'm not even all that familiar with him, to be honest with you.
If I showed you a picture of him and you heard his voice, you would know Kevin Hart. He is a very funny African American comedian. He's very funny, very funny. But to do this is a huge risk, because I think the number of screens for this on this July 4th weekend is kind of high end for a comedy concert film. So hopefully his does well. But again, like you said, that's an extreme risk on July 4th. I just wanted to bring that up because that's kind of unique.
Yeah.
But we've got two movies, and I'm not sure either one of them need to be made. We've got Despicable Me 2.
Well, yeah, okay.
Which, I saw that, and it was fine. The first one, I saw Despicable Me. It was fine.
Kids love that movie, though. Kids adore it.
Well, the Minions are awesome.
Yeah.
I will say that.
Yeah, the kids adore Despicable Me. My daughter loved that movie. That's the one time where I ended up, even my mother-in-law and who don't go to movies at all, my mother-in-law and my father-in-law saw it in the theater, which they never do. I mean, capital N never, and they loved it. I'm really curious to see what happens with this. Al Pacino was supposed to be the villain, and he's backed out. He backed out after principal animation was finished. He was creative differences, and so I mean he was. You see the first teaser trailers and such. He's mentioned in the credits, not in the latest one. He's out. So I don't know what they're going to do.
Creative differences on a cartoon?
Exactly. It's weird. I've never heard of that. I know Al Pacino can be difficult to work with, I've heard, but I've never heard of anybody dropping out of an animated film, because animation is not like live action. They're done. They finished it. There's nothing they can do. They may have created that character template because they knew they got Al Pacino playing that role. Who are they going to get now? I mean, maybe Chaz Palminteri or something. I don't know. I don't know enough about the villain to know that they can just interchange a part out.
Well, the good thing is it is a voice. So literally, they can take the last 2 weeks before a movie comes out and change the voice.
But I mean, if you're an actor, you certainly won't want to jump into who's going to want to follow Al Pacino. And there's no actor who's going to want to do that. I still don't have any. I mean, at this point, I don't know. They may keep it a secret.
We'll just get Kevin Pollak to do his Al Pacino voice.
There's lots of actors who could probably pull it off.
Yeah, because
Bill Hader could do it too, I think.
Oh, well, and even the kid from Big Bang Theory, the Simon Helberg.
Yeah,
he does a pretty good Al Pacino.
So I mean, I don't know, but I like the trailers I've seen so far. My daughter wants to see it. My wife wants to see it. I think it's going to be a very successful movie. It's going to be between that and Monsters U this summer for the animated movie. And, I'm always going to bet Pixar because I'm just that big of a fan. But, Despicable Me 2 has got a lot of following, too. I think it may do well.
Well, I think this was made simply because the first one made a lot of money.
Yeah.
Then it brings us to The Lone Ranger.
Yeah.
This one I can't get I've seen all the trailers for. Johnny Depp is playing Tonto. You've got Army... I can't remember his last name.
Armie Hammer.
Armie Hammer. I knew it was something stupid. It's like Dick Armey, the politician. Armie Hammer.
He is a member of the Hammer Empire, or Hammer. I think he's one of the sons of Armie Hammer, or grandson, or something.
I wouldn't be surprised. He plays the Lone Ranger, and it's also by the people who did Pirates of the Caribbean.
Directed by Gore Verbinski, too.
Yeah, Rango. So Gore Verbinski, I trust him as a director. I think he does a good job. But it just seems, I don't know, I can't get a read on this. It seems like it's going to be too goofy.
I don't think it's going to be goofy. I think the trailers play goofy for the audience, but I think it's actually going to be quite a serious Western. And I think, for one thing, I watched the Lone Ranger show when I was a kid. You're
not that old.
No, I'm not that old, but it was playing on repeat.
I just wanted to put that out there because, it
was on repeat all the time. It played on Channel 39 here in Houston. So,
I just want to make sure people didn't think you were 109.
No, right. I like the show. It was something to watch when I came home from school. And this seems to be a movie that's going to be as accurate to the original story as possible, which I thought was interesting because the whole thing with the 7 brothers all getting killed, that's part of the history or not history. It's not a real person, but
it's the history
of the Lone Ranger. And it's a weird disconnect for me watching that trailer because I like what I see, and at the same time, it just feels so bloated and overwrought. And
it looks like Wild Wild West.
Well, it doesn't look that bad.
You got horses jumping onto moving trains.
It still doesn't look.
Riding through the trains.
I don't see a giant steam-powered spider. Okay,
that's true.
Okay.
Oh, you just ruined that whole movie.
Yes, exactly.
Like the first 10 minutes didn't spoil that movie. You got kids throwing single bullets into guns.
Yeah, come on. I understand, but that's kind of part of the iconography of the character. We will see on that one. I have the feeling it's going to be. I don't like to do box office talk, but I have the feeling that's probably going to be the first dud of the summer. It's going to be the one movie that's going to bring Johnny Depp down to earth a little bit, and maybe his fans will realize that he hasn't really, quote unquote, acted in the past 12 years since
he's done the one thing. Well, this happens a lot. Al Pacino did it.
Yeah.
When he won his Oscar for Son of a Woman.
Yeah.
Next thing you know, he was just screaming the whole time.
Yeah, exactly.
Jack Nicholson did that pretty much as soon as right after the Joker. He kind of went into this. He's Jack Nicholson until As Good as It Gets.
Yeah. Johnny Depp. I love him as an actor. One of my favorite movies of all time is Ed Wood. He might need this as an actor. He might need this movie to fail to kind of get back on track. I don't know. I'm not going to presume to say. At the same time, my father-in-law is a huge Western fan, and he wants to see this really badly. He wants to go to the screening. If I host the screening of this one, he said he wanted to go, and he never wants to go. I don't know. We will see how this one. The jury is really out. They spent a ton of money on it.
Oh, yeah.
It was going to be more money. But they had a huge subplot that ended up getting taken out about werewolves because, hey, he shoots silver bullets. Of course he should fight werewolves. Makes sense, right? But anyway, that was all in there, and they took that out before they even made the movie.
Well, thank God, because that would have scared me. It's
like
I said, from what I can see, it looks goofy as all get out. But
yeah, we'll see. I
can't believe I just said all get out. But yes, it's,
I mean, there are parts of it that you got Helena Bonham Carter's in it. I don't know. I really don't know. That one's a really big question mark for me. I have the feeling though that it's not going to do well. I think people may have just had about enough. Unfortunately, because I think he's a gifted actor, I think he's fun, but the general populace may have just had enough of the Johnny Depp thing.
Especially the Johnny Depp being kind of goofy, weird, or being a little off.
Yeah.
Well, we'll move on to what I think you think will be the movie of the summer, if not the year, Pacific Rim.
Yeah. It's actually not as clear cut as that. It's kind of a really close between Pacific Rim and Man of Steel, but yeah.
Well, I think this is the uber geek movie of the year.
Dude, giant robots fighting giant monsters, swinging giant ships at their face, and yeah.
Well, let me lay down the premise for you, for the people who don't know, because I know very little about this. You probably know a lot more of it because this is right up your alley. For me, this sounds cool. It looks cool. Everything I've seen about it is cool, but it may be a little too nerdy for. But
I have the feeling that it may end up being that way. But go ahead. Yeah.
You've got apparently some kind of, we'll say aliens, though they may be Earth.
They're interdimensional.
Well, we'll just say they're from the Earth. They come out of the ocean
and
attack us.
Uh-huh.
And so they're big, huge Godzilla-like monsters. And so to battle them, we decide, hey, we'll make Godzilla-sized robots.
Mm-hmm.
Here's what throws me. I don't understand why you need two people in synchronize. They synchronize their memories
because the machinery is so complicated and the machine is so huge that it takes two brains to run it.
Okay, because you see a lot of them doing the exact same thing next to each other, like a jazzercise.
One person can't run a Jaeger, is what they're called in the movie. One person can't run it. They don't have the brain power to run that big machine. They need two people.
If you're in charge of them, are you the Jägermeister?
I would assume so. I'd be if that doesn't show up in the movie, I'm sure.
That's a great sponsorship if you haven't got that.
Exactly. They're probably all drinking Jägermeister.
But everything I've seen, if you go look online, the trailers are slick. Guillermo del Toro knows how to make monsters.
Mm-hmm.
And almost any geek who works in visual effects knows how to make robots, because almost every robot, even in bad movies, look cool.
Yeah.
So what have you heard about this? Because I know people are going crazy about it online. This is an internet
thing. It's really difficult to separate the reality from the hype. The hype says it's going to be like the next Star Wars. Okay, I've heard people saying that. The reality is different because I don't know. There hasn't been a whole lot of screenings, although there have been some. And I've talked to a few people who've been to those screenings. I really tried hard to get it here myself, but and I may end up screening that, so we'll see. The reality of the screenings I've played said it's really, really good. It's not as great as people want it to be, but it's very enjoyable. I'll put it this way: it's going to be the kind of movie that an 8-year-old's going to see, lose his mind. 20 years later, he's into movies. He's making movies. Okay,
so that would be a Star Wars.
That would be kind of a Star Wars milestone kind of thing, but maybe not with Star Wars box office. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
But it's an entire
a Buckaroo Banzai.
That's a little too niche.
Okay.
And I love Buckaroo Banzai. But the thing about it to me is that Pacific Rim feels like Star Wars, like they've created this universe. It's a new world they've made. This is kind of from what they've been talking about, they're expanding it to comic books, video games, all sorts of stuff. Impossible.
A multi-platform distribution kind of thing.
Exactly, and they're talking about making it, basically, like Avengers or something, and they may have more Pacific Rims movies down in the future, and it necessarily won't be Guillermo del Toro doing it. They'll have other directors stepping in, other writers stepping in. They've basically created this world of where giant monsters and giant robots exist. I love everything I've seen about this thing so far. It is easily right up there with Man of Steel as my most anticipated film of the summer. The only reason Man of Steel is right next to it is because I'm a Superman guy. I don't know, man. I think it's going to be great. I have such high hopes for it that I'm worried as a reviewer, I may be overhyping myself and when I sit down and see the movie for the first time. Everything I've seen about it is great. I think it's got a really interesting cast. It's interesting that Guillermo del Toro basically went to Warner Brothers when he's making a movie in Legendary Pictures and said, "Well, I want this person. I want Idris Elba. Okay. I want Charlie Day.
Yeah,
okay."
Because I don't see any big names, but there are recognizable faces.
They're recognizable faces, but they're character actors. Right. A lot of them. I want Charlie Day. I want Charlie Hunnam. I want Idris Elba. I want all these different character actors. Okay, and they gave it to him. And basically, this is Guillermo del Toro, who is a fantastic director, one of the great genre directors ever, who's made such amazing movies with such little amount. They have given him millions of dollars to play, and I have to see what that's like. To see a director with the vision that he has, unfettered by almost any budget, the thing you think is what becomes reality. You get to... Well, let's imagine if this robot did this and this giant monster did this. Could we do that? Oh, sure, let's do it. And they do it.
I don't think he's handcuffed by the fact. I think he was able to get whoever he wanted because he was able to sell the fact that it doesn't matter who's in these spots. So, I mean, to the executives, they're not listening to this podcast, so I can say they're stupid. They're only thinking about money. So he sells them.
Don't be too sure. Don't be too sure about that.
Yeah,
so.
It'll be robots versus these great creatures. He probably had some pictures to show them, and they said yes. And he said, well, we want these people because we don't need to sell a big name. The big name is friggin' robots and Godzilla's fighting each other.
Yeah, exactly. Well, I mean, I'm surprised this movie hadn't been made before. To be honest, with the special effects stuff that we have now, eventually a giant robot versus giant monster movie was coming, and I'm glad that it's Guillermo del Toro making it. There's really no better director, maybe other than Peter Jackson, who could be involved, or even Spielberg, to be involved in something like this.
I'm getting concerned about Peter. He needs an editor. He needs an editor that he's not married to or knows about.
I'll put it this way. I love The Hobbit. It plays better at home than it does in the theater, because in the theater you've got bladder issues. At home you could just pause it.
Yeah.
But
well, that will move us on to our next July 19th. Now, I was actually on set for this movie.
Really?
For one day back in October. This is R.I.P.D.
Really? I didn't know you were on set for that.
Yeah, I didn't know it either until I walked onto the set. I was in Boston. This movie was filmed in part in Boston. I had several days in Boston for an event, and so I just, I do what I like to do, and I wandered around, especially Boston. Mm-hmm. And I come around a corner, and there are several destroyed vehicles, a couple burned out buildings, and camera equipment and crews. I mean, I've been on sets before, so I know what a movie set looks like.
Right.
And all of a sudden, I'm like, what the heck's going on here? So, of course, the first thing you do is you start looking around because they put posts on everything. And,
yeah.
And sure enough, I think it's either the final scene, or I didn't get to see any of the celebrities, but it's either the final scene or the one of the big action set pieces,
right?
Where they're destroying cars in Boston. Mm-hmm. Now, R.I.P.D. We've got Jeff Bridges, who plays an old Western dead ghost detective, and Ryan Reynolds, who I don't believe in at all anymore. He's good in rom-coms.
Yeah,
he's a little too.
I actually like him in. Although the movie is bad, he does his best work. Or he does the best he can in Green Lantern.
Yeah. But he is a modern, he's a modern day detective who dies.
Right.
And apparently the whole thing is that now these ghosts do something. They solve crimes or they fight crimes.
They're basically keeping other ghosts from interfering with life now that they're no longer there. Their job to police other ghosts to stop fussing with the living.
And then they're embodiments in real life. So when they walk around, apparently Jeff Bridges plays a unbelievably good-looking blonde. And Ryan Reynolds is the famous from Big Trouble in Little China. He plays every old Chinese guy you ever seen.
Yeah.
His name is Ken. But he plays a very old Asian man.
Yeah,
and so whenever they talk to people in real life, it's Men in Black with ghosts instead of aliens. It sounds like.
Right. Well, Men in Black and Ghostbusters and all. This is probably of the whole list of the films coming this summer. This one is the one that I really know the least about. This is not. It's kind of under the radar as big summer movies go. Probably the most under the radar of all of them. I love Jeff Bridges. I'll see him in pretty much anything. The trailer really was underwhelming to me.
Yeah.
I didn't see anything in it that I hadn't seen before.
I should say this is Men in Black 2 with ghosts.
Yeah, they've got a they've got a huge problem. The movies that are coming out this summer are showing us things that we've really never seen before on screen. Even though, I mean, like Man of Steel, okay, it's Superman's man. You know, we've seen Superman before, but we haven't seen him like this. You know, we haven't seen him with today's technology. We've got Pacific Rim. We've all seen giant robots and giant monsters before, but we've never seen him like this.
Yeah, usually rubber suits are involved.
Yeah, exactly. You know, we've seen a lot of this stuff before, but it's done with new special effects and everything. This movie doesn't look like. It looks like it's a retread of so many different other kinds of films like this. You know, the young cop, old cop, buddy cop thing in a weird situation. Man, I don't know. There's a really interesting movie in the 80s that's kind of along the same lines with Treat Williams and Joe Piscopo of all people called Dead Heat. It's actually a good movie. It's quite good. It's a lot of fun.
Okay, you're going to have to convince me on that one, but sure.
It's right. It's cusp of where Joe Piscopo is he or is he not going to become huge? And he didn't.
Right. Well, he actually Joe Piscopo wasn't. He in certain instances he can do what he's supposed to do well, like Johnny Dangerously. He was really good in that because he was playing a goofy guy. But you know, once he started bulking up, his whole attitude shifted, and he just didn't see. It's like Carrot Top. Once Carrot Top started bulking up, people just
you can't relate to somebody who doesn't look anything like you.
You don't find people who can beat you up funny.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, pretty much. But you know, that movie is good. That movie is it's not like one of the best movies of all time or anything, but it's enjoyable for the 2 hours that it's on. It was this looks like they remade that movie. It really does. So you know,
this is your wild card.
Yeah, it is a wild card. It's the long shot. It's not the one I would bet on. But you know, I never bet on long shots. And who knows?
Well, we'll go from long shot to I would say a pretty solid, not necessarily overwhelming, but pretty solid hit that's going to happen on July 26th. The Wolverine.
Yeah, I'm very curious about this one.
They took the best storyline of all the comic books that Wolverine's been in, and I haven't read the recent runs. This is, you know, for me, it was 1980 to about 95. I was big on comics, and I knew all the things going from 95 into the.
Well, this was in that span.
Yeah, this was. That's what I'm saying. So I don't know recently if there's been better Wolverine stories, but Wolverine.
There is one
going
out
to
there
Japan,
that I hear is really good, but it's like Old Man Wolverine. I've heard that's a good comic.
Okay.
But yeah, this is the story that a lot of fans are really been wanting to see. I have the feeling that they kind of changed it up quite a bit, because there's something going on that where Wolverine wants to get rid of his powers.
He wants to be mortal.
Yeah, I really don't like that in superhero movies. I don't.
Superman 2 or 3? Which one? Superman 2.
Yeah, Superman 2. You've got in Green Lantern where he doesn't want the ring anymore. You know, the reluctant superhero. You know, you even get Spider-Man who quits in Spider-Man 2. Okay, I think that's a terrible trope for superhero movies, because in reality, in reality, if we had superpowers, I don't know if we'd be rescuing people, but we certainly wouldn't want to give them up. Right. You know, and that idea. I understand the character is basically immortal. He's lived for hundreds of years, and he's ready to quit. That's an understandable tact, but you're going to have to sell it. Yeah. I'm curious about this movie. I like a lot of people that are involved with it. I've heard some interesting things. Some people, friends of mine, who've been on the set and saw the film as it was shooting, liked a lot of what they saw. How it plays out in on screens is going to be interesting.
A lot of ninjas.
Wolverine fighting ninjas. You can't go wrong with that. Although I hated that poster. The poster looks so photoshopped.
The one I liked is the very first one they did.
The first one's the best one. Yeah, that one.
The first one that they did where he's in the rain with a samurai sword.
Yeah, that one's a pretty good.
But the one you're right, and then they had another one that was very traditional Japanese art.
Yeah, that one.
Ink.
That's what I'm talking about.
It looks
I like
like
that one. Yeah.
Well, I want to say a Warsack test, but it's not. But it's
Yeah.
But yeah, they did a horrible. They've kind of made some missteps on marketing sometimes with Wolverine.
Well, the thing about it is, although X-Men Origins Wolverine, I thought it was a terrible movie. I am always up for another Wolverine film. I'm always up because Hugh Jackman is Wolverine.
My arch nemesis.
He can do anything.
I know.
We all know, but I love him playing Wolverine. He seems to enjoy loving playing that character. You've got so many actors who, when they play superheroes or play an iconic character like that, and they start to think, I don't want to just be remembered for that. And then they get the idea in their head that they have to do something else. They have to do something totally different. And
Not Hugh. I think he understands
Well,
that
Hugh-
without it, he wouldn't be anywhere.
well, Hugh is so multi-talented because he can do singing, dancing, he does all sorts of different movies, and he doesn't have that problem. He doesn't have that ego to worry about. He knows what brought him to dinner. He knows who's paying. Who's paying for dinner, and he'll happily do what they want him to do. But he seems to really enjoy playing that character. He seems to have such a good time with it. He explores every avenue he can. Hey, even although the movie is plotted terribly, he's really enjoyable as Wolverine in X-Men Origins Wolverine. And I have the feeling that this is going to be along those same lines. I'm not sure if I'm going to embrace the story or not because I think they've made probably too many changes to that original arc in that comic. But I will never doubt him as that character. I will never doubt that he will not, embrace the character and play it the best that he possibly can. And I want to see Wolverine versus ninjas on the screen. You don't even have to have a story for that. You can just start it with Wolverine.
Short films would be nice.
Yeah, you can. A whole 2-hour movie of him fighting ninjas is fine with me. You can just have him wake up. He goes to the kitchen. Suddenly a ninja bursts in, and we're on. That's all I need. That's fine. Wolverine versus ninjas is great. That's fine.
Yeah, like the Punisher short they did with who played the Punisher years ago.
Yeah. Thomas Jane.
Thomas Jane.
Yeah.
He did a short with his friends as Punisher.
Yeah.
And it was pretty cool. It was just it was like a 5-10 minute short of him, trying to do his laundry and some people break in and he's got to fight and kill him or he's got to defend some woman.
Yeah.
It was interesting. It was like a 10-minute short. It got to the point. It got everything you wanted: blood, guts, and gore, and violence and guns and the Punisher. And if they did that every once in a while, that'd be great too. I wish they would do that more. Remember how
Shorts? That would be great. I would love to see these.
Like in the 40s, you'd pay 25 cents and you used to
That
go
would
see
be
two
awesome.
movies and in between.
Yeah, I would love that. I wish they would. Actors' outrageous prices asking is crazy, and it takes much longer to make these movies. But shoot, why not do a 5-minute short? Put Henry Cavill in a Superman short where he's rescuing a cat from a tree and he's having the hardest time. Do a 5-minute cartoon or something, but not a cartoon live action. That would be wonderful.
Or just any kind of situation where it's just a 5. It wouldn't be a full movie. It'd be 5 to 10 minutes, and put it in front of your next Warner Brothers hero movie.
Yeah, that would be old.
I would love to see a
school.
Captain America
Old school.
short in front of Thor.
Yeah, that would be great. Why not? They could do that. This is Disney. Disney would do that.
Well, like I said, I think that would be cool.
So Disney, call us.
Or Disney, this would be a great way to introduce some of your Marvel, your lesser-known characters. Have a Luke Cage.
Exactly. A Luke Cage short would be great. You could have a Luke Cage in the 70s coming out of Studio 54 and beating up some punks, and Iron Fist will be there. Yeah, do it. Call me, Marvel. Call me.
We've got ideas for days. August 9th brings... Actually, this is my most anticipated movie because this is from the director of District 9.
Yes, Elysium. That's the... Okay, so now we're in a three-way tie kind of.
Yeah.
Yes, Elysium. Yes.
Elysium is starring Matt Damon and Jodie Foster, who both... I mean, Matt Damon shaved his head for the movie. He's all buffed up. He looks great in it. Jodie Foster, I think, has always looked great. But you can see that I think she's at a point in her career where she's going to take a lot of risks because she doesn't care anymore.
Yeah.
I mean, she doesn't have to worry about her reputation. I don't think she has to worry about her career because she can go out and make movies with Mel Gibson about puppet beavers and still survive that.
That's fine. And she's going to be with this guy Neil Blomkamp, who is a visionary director, and they gave him a budget. And he didn't really need a budget considering how awesome District 9 was and how awesome it looked,
And from what I understand, they didn't give him a huge budget.
Yeah.
I think he did a lot of this.
Well, a lot of it was filmed in Mexico City.
Yeah.
The scenes on Earth with the...
I'll set up the premise. The premise is all the rich people have said Earth is a cesspool pit of hate and violence, and I think we've probably ruined it environmentally. And so they built Elysium, which is this satellite that orbits Earth. Mm-hmm. So all the rich, healthy people can live off planet, and the rest of us have to fight it out in basically what looks like District 9.
Yeah, exactly.
And so Matt Damon says enough is enough.
Well, he has a real, from what I understand of the plot, which I won't reveal, but he has a real motivation to get to Elysium. And so they give him this power armor, not really power armor, but like an exoskeleton kind of thing that he uses to fight robots. And he's got this program that's going to allow him to get into Elysium. But what he doesn't know is that program is actually a lot bigger in the plot than people realize. And I won't say what it does, but it looks fantastic. Damon looks great. Jodie Foster looks great. I'll see Charlton Copley, who is in the original District 9. I'll see him in anything at this point because he's a
even the A-Team.
Yeah, even the A-Team. He's great. He's a chameleon actor. He can play anything. And he plays kind of one of the henchman villains in the film. He plays him like, those SEAL team or, the Delta Squad team in Black Hawk Down, right? Where they walk around with guns everywhere. They don't give a damn in the world, but they are the best at what they do, And when they're not fighting, they're just drinking beers off a beach and growing their beards out. And then when they get hired on, and they go in and with brutal efficiency, they take down whoever they need to take down. That's the kind of character he's playing. And I really like him as an actor. I like everything I've seen about Elysium. Elysium's going to be badass. It's going to be badass because Neil Blomkamp has a social mind. He's thinking of social issues, but he doesn't let his social issue thinking get in the way of making great freaking awesome movie
Well, he disguises
moments.
all that social
Yeah.
stuff like good science fiction does. He's got major political views that are disguised as entertainment.
I don't think he even disguises them. I think he has of two minds. He wants to talk about these issues, and he wants to have giant spaceships and robots and shit fighting. Okay, he's okay with both at the same time. He's not. I don't think he's sugarcoating the message.
No.
I think that he is. I mean, it's obvious when you see the trailer that this is a movie about It's obviously a movie about the economy, and it's obviously a movie about the have-nots and the haves. And it's very similar to District 9. Where District 9 has, the whole racial aspect of it and, what's going on in South Africa and what's going on in apartheid and all that. And then you've got mechs fighting aliens and people shooting, and it's you can mix the two and be totally badass about it. He's a great director in that regard. I am really excited to see Elysium because I think he's going to be that. He could end up being Spielberg. That's the kind of director he can end up being.
That's why I'm excited to see it, because it's all about the director, because what he did with such limited resources for District 9, and what I've seen of Elysium, and the fact that he is constantly trying to do that message where he's trying to reflect back our social and economic situations. I think this is the kind of stuff that we should be doing more, but I think Hollywood is afraid to do that a lot of the times.
Yeah.
Because politics scares people off.
Yeah.
Because there's going to be people who watch this, and they're going to see it reflected, and they're going to be upset.
They would not have allowed this movie to happen with the story that it happened had he not done District 9, had it not been a wild success.
Right. So that's why. And so then we move on to August 16th, another sequel. But this one seems they've added a couple people that seem to be fun. It's called Kick-Ass 2.
Yeah, it looks like a lot of fun.
Jim Carrey is off the hook, and he's a good actor, very good actor.
Yeah.
But people don't forget because they, Ace Ventura. They keep thinking Ace Ventura still, or the crazy goofy him. But I think he's doing this weird, the Colonel character.
Yeah. I'm excited to see it. I have not read this comic. I know Mark Miller wrote it and everything, so I'm actually going in fairly blind on this one. But I loved Kick-Ass. I thought it was a really interesting take on the superhero genre, kind of a deconstruction of it. And I'd be interested in seeing how. I guess this will be a deconstruction of superhero team movies or superhero team comics.
Yeah. It's just, and also a continuation of now that they've been established. I think this is now that it's established that there are heroes out there.
Yeah.
How does the world react to that?
Yeah. How does that work exactly? And is the world going to look at them as heroes, or is this really crazy guys in suits fighting each other? And I tend to think it's probably going to be towards the latter.
Yeah.
But I like it a lot. I like Jim Carrey and the risks he takes. He falls on his face a lot, but he also does some really great work, and he doesn't let popular opinion or sway him on how he picks his roles. He'll take a role that he thinks is interesting, and if it doesn't work in the end, it's not normally his fault.
I think of him as like a classic home run hitter, where most of the time he's going to strike out, but when he does hit the ball, he goes over the fence.
Yeah.
It's all or nothing with him.
One of my favorite performances he's ever done, one of my favorite movies of all time, is Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind.
Oh, that's a beautiful movie.
And it didn't do well at the box office at all, but it's a great film. I mean, great movie. And I'm not saying that this is in comparison to that role, but for people to think that Jim Carrey just doesn't give his A game, like you said, they're wrong. I think that he does. He puts his full effort in everything he makes. And this looks like he's having a lot of fun. It looks like he gets to play with that Jim Carrey persona and kind of turn him... The Cable Guy is a better movie than people give it credit for.
Yeah, it is.
It's funny how he comes out of the gate and he says, well, I play these really funny characters, people can laugh at him, but in the real world, I'm a psychopath. A character like this is an insane, crazy person. And I get that vibe with this too. He's kind of playing the Cable Guy in a superhero outfit.
Then we come to my birthday, My 40th birthday, August 23rd. We've started this podcast with the end of the world, and we're going to end this podcast with the world's end. With Simon Pegg, Nick Frost, and the director,
Edgar Wright.
Edgar Wright, who's going to be doing Ant-Man.
Yeah.
For those of you who are in the comic books, and I think that'll be a fantastic movie.
I'm excited to see Ant-Man, but I'm more excited to see The World's End because this is the end of the Cornetto trilogy. This is the trilogy.
Explain what that is for people who
The
don't know.
Cornetto trilogy is starting off with Shaun of the Dead, and then Hot Fuzz, and then The World's End. They call it the Cornetto trilogy is because in each of the movie they eat this ice cream that's available overseas. They make it's basically what drumsticks are here, and but the real interesting thing about the trilogy is that Edgar Wright makes movies, genre films in this trilogy, but he puts them in a British kind of bent. He kind of looks like the first film is looking at zombie films and horror films, but he gives it this little British kind of twist to it, and he has a different perspective. Hot Fuzz is about Michael Bay blowing up action movies, but again, it's looked at a British perspective.
I always remember, to me, Hot Fuzz is just Belloc shooting people
Yes.
from Raiders of the Lost Ark.
Yes.
Because I hadn't seen him since.
Well, you get to have Belloc say "F you, grasshopper,"
and then he starts wailing away.
Yeah.
So this one is another apocalypse movie.
It's an apocalypse movie, but it's it's an end of the world, big budget.
Do we know what's causing the apocalypse in this particular
we have
movie?
no idea. It looks like space aliens.
Okay.
From the trailer that I saw.
Because I believe in the very first one we didn't get to, I think it's more of a biblical end of the world, and so this one's more of a invasion.
Yeah, well, the whole idea is that this guy played by Simon Pegg is basically wants to relive his childhood, gets all his buddies together to go on this pub crawl that they do that they used to do.
Martin Freeman is in it.
Martin Freeman
and
Patty Considine and Nick Frost and Simon Pegg, and there's one other, and I can't remember. Oh gosh, I'm gonna get killed for not knowing his name, but I know who he is. Okay, I see his face right in front of me. But these are British actors, and basically they're going on a pub crawl. They go to this town that has these 12 pubs. They're going to do 12 pubs in 12 hours or something like that. And when they get to that town that they used to go to as when they were younger, it looks like everybody's possessed by space aliens. They have glowing eyes and glowing mouths and everything. And so, but they're determined to get to that last bar. The World's End is the final bar at the end.
So
of it,
apocalypse does not interfere with their drinking.
Yeah, exactly.
As true British folks will tell you.
Exactly. They're not going to stop their pub crawl for the end of the world. And it looks like it's a lot of fun. I dig Edgar Wright as a director. He's one of my favorites. Simon Pegg and Nick Frost together again with him is great. For a lot of the film or a lot of movie people who don't know the film geek community, these guys are basically Abbott and Costello. And
they're involved. They're not just like people who are that the geeks like. These guys are not afraid to interact.
Yeah.
And take part of the community.
Yeah,
I know
exactly.
Simon Pegg is a huge nerd fest.
Oh
guy.
yeah,
He loves to talk to the
he's
fans.
Scotty. He's in Star Trek. He gets to play him, and he's probably the best thing in that movie.
And
but
I wouldn't
anyway.
be surprised if he's in Star Wars now that J.J.
I wouldn't be
Abrams-
surprised either. He probably shows up.
He's already been a voice in one of the cartoons.
Yeah,
so.
yeah. And Nick Frost is a big geek too, and I love Nick Frost. There's a movie that he's in called Attack the Block, which is great. It looks like it's a ton of fun. I can't wait to see it. I don't know that much about it. I haven't really gone out of my way to know because I don't want to. This one I kind of want to not spoil. I get spoiled on so much these days. This one I don't want to spoil, so I just watched the trailer. I haven't read anything else. But Edgar Wright working with these two guys again is just great because they have this thing. I don't know what it is where they just make great movies. Shaun of the Dead is one of the not just a great zombie movie. I mean, it's a great movie. It's really funny, but it's warm. It's also scary. I mean, he manages to make a zombie movie that feels like a zombie movie and not a spoof. Hot Fuzz is a great action movie. It's also a spoof of action movies at the same time, but it's still a great action movie. So I imagine that this will be a really good post-apocalyptic kind of thing, and it'll be, thumbing its nose at it as well a little bit.
Well, I know that you're going to be writing reviews. Sometimes not necessarily reviews. Sometimes they're opinion pieces, as you did with the Star Trek one. It wasn't really a review. It was more of a...
It was a review. That's what I felt. That's what I wrote about.
Yeah, and so always done very well. You can find them at ain'titcoolnews.com, or is it ain'titcool.com?
Ain'titcool.com
I
is
think
fine.
both. I think
you
own
can
them
do both. Uh-huh.
at Nordling AICN
Yep.
on Twitter.
Right?
The least cynical critic on the internet.
I was until Star Trek Into Darkness, anyway.
Oh, that was, yeah. Oh, I saw that one. I'm like, I don't think he wrote this. I think someone else wrote this. He was possessed. But you're gonna have reviews of all these movies coming out this summer. So not only is this a great primer, but also look for the reviews of the actual movies when they come out.
Right.
It looks like it's gonna be a great summer.
I think it's going to be a lot of fun.
And once again, Alan, always glad to have you here.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
That's our show for this week. As always, thanks to Alan for taking time to talk movies with me. You can find the podcast on facebook.com/realitycheckpodcast. We're on Twitter at realitycheckpod. And you can email me guest suggestions, comments, and questions, Craig@speakercraigprice.com. I'll see you at the movies. That sounded lame.